Okay, I've been doing a bit of thermos cooking. Going to try and do some more again. First one turned into an absolute circus because I had no damn funnel that was any good to put beans through. So I'm going to give this one here and I'm going to trim it down. At some point, I'm just soaking a bit of rice in there. I'll give it a boil in this little tiny aluminium pot. Anyway, wanted to point something else out that not many people know, Australians included, and that is, well, we've got a fair amount of natural gas in this state, and yeah, it's not so far from the capital actually. I'm not saying it's right, like, you know, right next to it, but it's in between Tasmania and the state capital, which is up against the coast there. And, well, you'd never believe it, but using a catalytic process, you know, just like the Nazis use a catalytic process to turn coal into fuel to run their aircraft. We have a catalytic process fairly similar. Well, I don't know exactly how similar, but it's a catalytic process to turn all that natural gas into virgin, in other words, not recycled plastic, into virgin plastic pellets. And as a result, we have a fair bit of Australian-made plastics that come out of my state. I'm not bloody joking. Yeah. And I tend to prefer to buy that stuff over, I mean, you know, this was here, it was cheap as dirt, and I was in the shop and I was just looking for a funnel and realised later, well, realised fairly quickly when I seen that symbol that it's Australian made. That's not why I bought it. But if I've got an option, I'll always buy Australian made over Chinese, because quite frankly, Chinese don't need any more of our damn money. So, I've got some other Australian made plastics around here. Another one they make quite commonly, and there's a real chance to make this if it's a closed top one. I've thought of different ones that you can make with like a open top that gets closed when it gets here, but it's things that are like just they take up too much space to put into a shipping container. So one of the ones I'll show you some in a minute. That's where I got the torch on. It's not out here, I don't think. I probably left it in the laundry. But you get watering cans. And I thought I left it in here, but apparently not. So you get these watering cans that have made in Australia on it. Oh, no, hang on, here it is. Here it is, sitting inside. I don't know why. That's not coming up terribly good, but I think you can see it. There you go. Yep, and that's made in Australia. The reason being, it's a big blooming hollow space, and by the time they put them in the shipping container, they're going to get a very, very, very light shipping container with, yeah, it's just not economically viable to send a whole heap of empty space in the shipping container. So that's one that's, and almost guaranteed all of this is actually made in my state. Because we do have the catalytic process here. There's a hell of a lot of natural gas that comes out of Western Australia, but all that just gets shipped out. I do believe that some of these, I've got a whole mess of stuff in here because I just got out of the other house. Oh yes. Now there's a brand that's called Quadrant Plastics. And that's another one, but this is a different one. Yeah, that's also made in Australia. I've got a whole bunch of these, and those are cheap as dirt. And you're surprised, you wouldn't bloody believe it, but, well, you almost can believe one aspect of it. A lot of the time, the Australian plastics, there's one big hardware chain that has it. But a lot of the time you find them in the, like the a place called the Reject Shop where there's a lot of blooming, like it's a lot of dollar store stuff. They originally started out selling second grade stuff and stuff that had been rejected and cancelled orders, and then they sort of moved into more mainstream stuff that they continuously have. But they, as a, you know, effectively a dollar store, or as we used to call them, $2 stores, because of the lower value of the dollar and the higher price of so much over here, they, you know, they're one of the few ones that consistently stocks Australian-made stuff, whereas your big department chains, your department store chains, they usually don't stock it. They usually stock fully Chinese plastics, because they're already getting them, you know, they're already over in China anyway, getting everything sorted, so they're just going to buy Chinese plastics to sell to everyone. And some of our plastics are bloody cheaper than Chinese plastics. I'm not joking, they're actually cheaper than Chinese plastics. Now, you might say a lot of it's shipping costs, but it's also, you know, import bullshit as well. Here's one here, a Ward brand, and once again, when my torch is not completely covering it, there you go, made in Australia. So that's another Australian-made one. I've got a whole bunch of them and they're cheap as dirt. Then, where are we here? I bought them back. Shit, I only bought them back yesterday. Put it all. Shit. I've got so much stuff back. Maybe I'll put it in the other room. Damn it. I can't really find it. I've got a whole heap of buckets that were made in New Zealand as well, which is sort of strange. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Yeah. Put that much stuff over and jammed everything around. I've got a tub that is made by the same Quadrant. Here we go. I'll get this out in the light here. There you go. Made in Australia by Quadrant Melbourne, which is, you know, the state capital. So they, yeah, that's their one. Now there's another one I've got. I got stuff everywhere because I just emptied all this stuff out of this house, and I got a lot of plumbing bits and stuff and screws randomly. It's not so much that they don't have a place, it's just that they're all jumbled up in different places and whacked in bags and just friggin' everywhere. I've got another one here. It's probably going to be a little bit hard to see. And this is fairly dirty because I haven't wiped the side down, and I've had this for a few years. Here's my sink. Wow, you can see that all right. And as you notice, there's a bathroom basin. Now I have a step in front of the shower there, and there's the actual shower basin. It needs a good wipe out because I haven't had a shower in it for a couple of months. So what I do, when I wash the stuff, I wash it in this. Then I put it down in one of these plastic containers temporarily. Then I drain out all the soapy water, and if there's any fat stuck on the sides, I'll get like baby wipes and wipe it off or whatever. Then I'll put fresh water in and I'll rinse it. I'll usually actually just put the plug in and just rinse it with the tap running. And then, you know, as you get to your smaller stuff, you've already got a bit of water in there, so you just dunk your smaller stuff from the water that you've built up from rinsing all the other gear. So this is fairly dirty on the outside, but it's clean on the inside. Underbed storage, and once again that's Quadrant as well, and you can barely see it, but it says made in Australia. So yeah, and yes, they've got the state capital written there as well. So yeah, there you go. A lot of people don't sort of realise it, and I sort of, you know, if there's two options and I see the Australian-made one, I'll always grab the Australian-made one. Because China, quite frankly, like, they don't need any more blimmin' sales of stuff than they're already bloody got. You know, let's face it, like, and most of their stuff, let's face it, is on the lower end of the quality scale. And so, oh, you know, some people, oh, it's good stuff. Look, I'd rather get something made in Australia than made in China. because I know how things are built here, and they're usually built fairly good. You know, and they're usually built very good, and some people build them fairly good. And when they're built fairly good, you'll find they're actually assembled in Australia from Chinese components, which is the stuff that I can... Usually it looks a bit bloody improvised and a bit homemade. And these are the people who love the idea of getting a whole heap of Chinese shit and putting in a dozen screws and then putting a Made in Australia sticker on it. And I can usually pick up on that from a bloody mile off. And most of us do know shit quality when we see it. Because we're real sticklers on quality in this country. And whereas in the States, a lot of you know, go look at a Briggs & Stratton engine versus a friggin' Honda engine, and you'll see what I mean. Anyway, a lot of Japanese stuff coming in here for a lot of years. There just becomes that expectation of quality, and yeah. But anyway, regardless of that, I'd rather support my own countrymen than some angry little Chinese subcontractor who's quite likely deliberately turning a product to shit just so he can profit better off it. And I don't think some polyester, not some polyester, polystyrene here. I don't think this is Australian made. Sometimes you get these unexpected things. I just split the bottom open over. It's strange, you know, you can see polyurethane foam stuff come all the way from Vietnam, and it's like, my God, all they've done is just, you know, just expanded this straight into a frickin' mold, and we couldn't do it here. Like, we could do it with robotics here. Oh, well, 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 what do you know? I'll be buggered. I had a funny feeling. Now this is, once again, you can go and pay $40 to $60 for polystyrene container, like a cooler. This is the one I originally got for the van. It's actually, instead of being your standard white, it's like your white and blue, as you can see there. It's very, very weakly blown. It's expanded a little bit too much, and there's such little density in it, it's actually really badly flimsy. But there we go there. Polyfoam Group, Victoria, New South Wales, Tasmania, South Australia, Queensland. And it is indeed made in Australia. 26 litre. So, well, you can pay 40 to 60 bucks for one of these that's a bit more heavy duty. It's actually, a lot of the time, it's got a plastic outer, and you can squeeze that plastic outer, and there is no foam or no nothing. It is just literally a plastic outer and a plastic inner. And that's your $40 to $60 made in China. And at least this is, you know, it's got a very weak outside, as you can see there. But at least it's actual polystyrene, not two friggin' layers of you know, harder plastic. But when you squeeze it, there's nothing in the middle, and it's just bowing in. And because it's bowing in, you know there's nothing in it. And that's this so-called Esky. You know, that's the good brand, you know, $40 to $60 for some heap of shit like this. I've seen one that was a black polystyrene that's like it folds flat. They wanted like $65. I'm like, it's fucking polystyrene. A couple of years ago, you could get like a polystyrene box. I got one in there that I keep a bunch of screws in. And these are like $2 each. And the grocery store would just be chucking them in the dumpster at the back 10 years ago. And now, they're trying to charge $65 for it. You know, and then you get your so-called good one with your harder outer shell. The side's still bowing, so you know there's no polystyrene in there. They want $40 to $60. This is $5. Yeah, $5, like they should be. And to boot, it's made in Australia. And interestingly enough, the same one that stocks Quadrant Plastics, you know, that dollar store place, that's where this come from. So there you go. That's all my Australian-made plastics. And I bet you never saw that coming.